Madeline Gill in the house. What's up, Maddie?
Nothing much, getting back from a good old vacation.
There we go.
Yep.
Maddie just came back from New Orleans.
Yeah, one day.
For New Year's. We'll have to do a whole different podcast on that.
Yeah, there's too many stories to tell.
So Maddie is a doctor of physical therapy. She's been with us now for 4 months?
4 months, I think.
4 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So today we're going to dive into really two topics, a little bit of Maddie's background, really in strength conditioning, fitness, physical therapy, all that. But also Maddie has a background in soccer that we're going to get into too. We're going to ask her some specific questions towards that. But first off, I want to start off by asking Maddie, when was the first time that you picked up a free weight to work out with it?
I don't really know that I can draw it back to a certain time, but I feel like as a young teenager, my dad would bring my brother and I to the gym, so probably about that time.
Okay.
If I had to guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
What gym did your dad go to?
We had like an athletic club, local in my hometown in Mandeville.
Okay.
So that's where it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That's how Ellie got into working at my wife. That's how her dad used to take her to, I guess, like a local gym, and they literally would walk around and do every machine because they didn't know what to do. So they would just do every machine. But it sounds like your dad had you on free weights, so that's good. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything.
So where are you from?
I was actually born in Mobile, but shortly after I was born, my parents had to relocate to the North Shore in Louisiana. So it's like Mandeville, Covington, Beta Springs kind of area. So I grew up there, and then I did my undergrad at LSU.
Yep.
Go Tigers.
It's a daily thing.
Yeah. But and then I relocated to Daphne about 3 years ago, and now I'm here in Birmingham.
Yeah. Okay. So how did you come to Alabama in the first place?
Pretty much all of my family lives here in Alabama in different areas of the state. I have some family in North Alabama, some in Central Alabama, and then my parents now live in South Alabama.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so you just really got around family more.
Yeah.
You moved here. Okay, so let's get into some of the fitness things. So I guess your dad, you're working out with your dad when you're little. When did you start playing soccer?
When I was 4, I started playing soccer.
4.
Yeah.
So you've been alive for with it. I love that.
Yeah.
So, okay. And this is a question I like to ask everybody because, tons of people have sports backgrounds, but it's funny hearing where everybody comes from the strength conditioning perspective. So when you played soccer as a little girl and then all the way up to the end of high school, was there a strength conditioning program for you guys? Did you actually work out?
I cannot say that I ever had a specific strength and conditioning program. I feel like, I'm not sure how it is like with male soccer, but I feel like in the female soccer realm, as far as I am aware, and what I was exposed to, we never really had a time where we would, practice strength and conditioning or go to the gym. A lot of time, the main focus was on cardio.
Okay. Yeah, just making sure you're in shape enough to play. Mm-hmm. But you didn't do any resistance training, no weights, anything like that?
No, not really.
Man,
ever.
do you know if the guys did? Do you know?
As far as I know, within my soccer club and then also at my high school, I don't think that they had anything associated with the team. Mm-hmm. They might have individually, but I'm pretty certain that they did not either. Okay.
And what size school did you go to? Did you go to
I graduated in a very small class. I graduated with 55 other people. So
that's like, I graduated with 42.
Yeah.
That's all. Did you go to public school or private school?
No, it's private.
Okay. Yeah. I went to a public school. So it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
So you played club and you played high school. You played, I guess, high school, elementary, all that. What was the biggest difference between club and high school?
Soccer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Club was absolutely more competitive than high school was.
Okay.
My club team, so we started playing competitive club soccer when we turned about 10 or 11. And then since then, my club team, we ended up winning 5 state championships. But
ooh, okay.
But since I went to a small private high school, soccer wasn't as serious.
Yeah.
But I kind of enjoyed, honestly, high school soccer more because it kind of helped me to play looser. It was more fun. There was less pressure, and so I kind of enjoyed that more, although we didn't win as often, I'd say.
Gotcha, because club was just more competitive.
Yeah.
5 state championships, and that's pretty legit, though.
Yeah.
Was it a big club circuit?
Are you talking about like the area that the people? Okay. Kind of. I think the area of the North Shore in Louisiana has definitely exploded ever since Katrina. A lot of people from the South Shore moved to the North Shore, so that area became way more populated, and so there's a good amount of people that live there. So there's a
Well, that's cool. You won that many on a big circuit. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you only play soccer, or did you play other sports too?
Soccer was my main sport. I played tennis just for fun, starting in like 8th grade. But that was just like in high school, kind of. I just kind of played a little doubles, just for fun.
Yeah.
But soccer was pretty much the main thing I was involved in.
Gotcha. And nobody ever did anything, so y'all just ran. Y'all just stayed in shape.
Pretty much, yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, practice and running.
Wow. Okay. So when did you start? Because I know you worked out. You've done a lot of HIIT in the past. When did you start working out seriously?
Let's see. Honestly, like you mean like on my own?
Yeah.
I would say maybe in the last year or so of my undergrad.
Okay.
Since soccer, I was involved with so like all my life. It kind of took up like all my time, every single like afternoon, weekend, and it was year round with being club. And then when you had your off season in high school, you were playing, or you had your off season in club, you were playing high school soccer. So it pretty much took up all of my time. And so yeah, I did that until I went to college. And then when I went to college, I played on the club team at LSU. And so, again, that kind of took up a lot of my time. Occasionally, I would go to the UREC with one of my friends, and we would do a little bit of, like, late weightlifting and that kind of stuff. But I probably didn't start getting involved with, like, HIIT classes and that kind of stuff until I went to PT school, when that was kind of like, my soccer days are over, I need something else to kind of keep me in shape. And so that's kind of what I transitioned to, because I like to keep the class, the team element. I definitely feel that I have more accountability when I have other people working together, working with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. You and I actually have a pretty similar story. I didn't get into CrossFit until I got to PT school, and then a buddy of mine introduced me to it, and it was terrible. I was awful at it, so I kind of nerded out on it after that. But you got into it in PT school as well. Well, let me ask you this: on your soccer days, you played club soccer at LSU.
Yes.
How serious was that?
So it was. I would say it was the right level of intensity for me. So I know with you have the college soccer teams that have the commitment that they have with practice in the mornings and the evenings, and it's pretty much like eat, sleep, breathe soccer.
Yeah.
I knew graduating high school that I didn't want to do that, and I wanted to kind of enjoy my weekends, enjoy my football games at LSU.
Because you had some potential to go play.
Yeah.
You did, yeah.
I could have if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to choose a new path, I guess, meet some new people at a big school, since I graduated with 55 that I've known since kindergarten.
Not a lot of people to me.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to expand my horizons, try something new, but I still wanted to be involved with soccer. So that's why when I found club soccer, it's kind of, college club soccer is kind of the perfect in-between intramurals and the real deal on the college teams. We practiced a couple times a week for about 2 hours, and then we would go travel oftentimes to other states to play other college club teams.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Yeah.
Well, so this is an interesting question. So you played, I mean, when did soccer start becoming year-round for you? How old would you say you were?
Probably when I reached that age when it became competitive, probably around 11.
Wow, that's so early.
Yeah.
Looking back on that, would you do that same thing again, or would you try to create more space?
Space just for anything?
More like have like a true off season. Like instead of going year round with it,
Yeah.
if you could go back, would you make an off season with it?
We kind of did have an off season, honestly, but it might have been for like a month. And typically it would be in June or July, hottest months of the year in South Louisiana. So typically if we had a break, it would be around that time.
Okay.
I don't know. I kind of enjoyed always staying busy, and once you start playing with these your teammates that you've had since you were like 10, 11, it becomes something that's fun and something that you look forward to, seeing your friends, and also getting some good exercise and being competitive with it. So
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed that aspect of it and kind of staying busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the busyness aspect also held me accountable also in other areas of my life, like school. Because I knew if I had a structured schedule, I had to get certain things done, with practice and everything like that. So I kind of liked the busyness of it.
That's a good point. I knew a lot of my teammates that I played with in high school and in college, like some of them really wanted an off season bad, and they couldn't do it all year long. They get so burnt out. I played all year long, and I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I played other sports too, though. It wasn't just that. But I remember some guys who, especially in college, if in the 1 month that we had off, and it wasn't really even a month off, but the time we had off, that's when everybody got in trouble. So having something that keeps you busy is great. So I'm with you on that. Okay, so you're playing soccer, you're doing all this, you get into strength conditioning. How did you initially get into it in PT school? And then how has it evolved since your initial stepping into it?
Yeah, so like I said, I wasn't too big into strength and conditioning. I didn't really know a whole lot what all of that was about until I got into PT school, and I started getting into HIIT classes. That kind of provided me with a little more education just on kind of formats of workouts and all that kind of stuff. But I would say I kind of began learning, I would say, my strength and conditioning education maybe when I did a rotation, my last rotation of PT school at Refine.
Yeah, I love that. So that was one of the when I remember when you reached out to me about working here, I thought it was really cool because Refine is a great PT company ran by some good friends of mine. And this is what we try to do, and we bring a student in now too. But you went there, you didn't know much about strength conditioning, but you saw how they did PT. You saw how they, as physical therapists, utilize strength conditioning methods to help people heal. And that was when we were told people we were hiring and figuring all that out. You reached out to me, and you were basically like, "Hey, I've been working with these guys. I loved how they do it. I would love to keep doing that." I love that you had something that turned you on to strength conditioning. That's the same thing that happened to me when I first got into CrossFit. It blew my mind, and I'm like, okay, I got to have more than this. And I also found a PT practitioner who was doing things the same way, and I started craving it. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is how I want to do it. So that's awesome. So with that background, with getting into PT, what would you say are some ways that you try to take the strength conditioning that you've learned and mesh it into what you do as a physical therapist and some of your treatments?
Yeah, I definitely still feel like I'm learning a whole lot about strength and conditioning. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at all.
Yeah.
I'm still definitely, every day that I'm here, I'm still learning a lot about it. But let's see, so you're asking how I apply it to my patients?
Yeah. So a patient comes in, they've got whatever's going on. What is your mindset to be like, okay, how can I use my strength conditioning principles to help achieve whatever goal they have?
Yeah. So two things that kind of come to my mind is kind of the formatting of maybe the session, and then obviously the inclusion of, heavier weights and different kinds of weights than they would normally see in a different kind of PT setting.
Go into that a little bit. When you bring up the format? I know what you're talking about, but for other people who don't know, what are you talking about? How we format it?
Yeah. So one thing that I kind of like to do that I've come into the habit of doing is kind of starting out with a little warm up, to get the blood pumping.
Yeah.
And then just kind of starting the session, no matter where their injury is, kind of starting it with heavy strengthening, maybe mobility, stability of that area, that joint, and then progressing into later in the session, applying it to more functional movements, more kinds of movements that you would see in a day-to-day setting, like overhead movements, if it's the shoulder, or like a squat or a lunge kind of thing, if it's lower body.
Yeah. I love that. So you keep bringing up the word heavy, and I love that because I mean, I think a lot of us are like this, but it's a kind of a pet peeve in PT that we underload people. Like weight is one of the best things that you can put on the body to create adaptation. And I remember specifically with you. So when we hire somebody, we hire people who have their minds all over strength conditioning, and they want to do things in a strength conditioning format for physical therapy. So we believe that's the way the body works. That's how people are going to heal. So when we hire somebody, we know they have a knowledge of this, but we're not quite sure how they're going to treat just yet. So I remember the first day or the second day maybe that you were here, I was watching you treat, or maybe I was coming out. I think Christian was watching you, and I came out to like check on things and see how you were doing. And I remember your patient was dripping sweat, and I thought she's gonna do just fine.
Yeah.
She's gonna make this happen.
Yeah.
So I love that. Yeah, and that's how you format it. The format's the same as it would be if somebody walked into a gym, which is great. So with your PT side of things and what you just said with soccer. Well, I guess I could ask this. How many girls did you play with in soccer who actually had an ACL tear?
That's a good question. I probably couldn't give you an exact number.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to estimate, let's see, you've got a team of like 25, 26 people.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like one or two
Okay. Yeah.
has experienced that.
That's great. And that's a small number compared to what we like. One of the most crazy stats in all of PT to me is that girls between the age of 12 and 16, half of those girls soccer players will tear an ACL.
Mm-hmm.
That is just the most insane stat I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
So if you see one or two, that's breaking the rules for sure. That's great, though.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
We don't want to see torn ACLs. If you could go back, though, and implement some of the things you know now into, and maybe you guys, instead of running all the time, y'all would do some other stuff. What would be some things that you would love to see implemented into a Maddie soccer program when you were in school?
That's a good question. I feel like a lot of times in girls soccer, there's maybe an interest in prehab just due to those numbers that you stated and how high the rates of ACL tears are. I know, I would say maybe if I had to guess, maybe I was like 15 years old, we'll say. In club soccer, they actually brought in this guy who is a strength and conditioning coach to come kind of work with our team and like work with the girls teams in the clubs. And he had an emphasis on prehab. So we would do a lot of stuff with like, I want to say a lot of the stuff that we were doing was kind of like jumping and mechanics of jumping and that kind of stuff, like kind of training the right ways to jump is what I remember a lot of.
Yeah.
Now, occasionally we would have maybe like one time in the gym, maybe.
Yeah.
But honestly, let's say you've got a season from August to maybe like October, November,
Is that
early
a normal
November.
soccer season?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Or that's what we would do for club soccer. But honestly, like I said, he maybe only came like one or two seasons, and then maybe like once a year. Like, so in that one season, we probably only saw him and worked with him 3 times.
Man.
So it wasn't anything substantial.
Yeah.
It's like we have this information that we were given, but we weren't really sure how
You don't
to
know what to do
implement
with it.
Yeah, and then we all forgot about it. So I don't know. I think in terms of applying those strength and conditioning to soccer, I think it would definitely be helpful if someone came in and was there consistently, taught you everything you needed to know, how to implement it, why it's important, and that kind of stuff, So I think that would be something very, very beneficial. That along with someone who's teaching you how to lift, maybe. Getting in the gym, obviously, cardio is very important, but definitely strength and conditioning is a whole lot, carries a great significance as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would definitely also help with performance, along with preventative measures.
Yeah.
So if we also had somebody that would be there for us, teaching us how to lift, what you should do with this, and then like how you can apply that to your performance in soccer. That would have been something that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, a lot of times I know in my case, I didn't really have someone who was teaching me that kind of stuff. I would go to the gym, like I said, with my dad and my brother, but we were just kind of there. I didn't really know what I was doing. So, and I'm sure that's the case for many of my teammates.
Oh, yeah.
So if we had somebody, that would have been
Great.
Really would have been helpful.
I think it's funny seeing some of the research. We try to. There's so much research on prehab. There's so much research on how do we prevent injury X and how to prevent this for soccer. How do we prevent an ACL tear? We don't really have good evidence for any like certain exercise or any exercise program having a heavy correlation with preventative ACL or preventative injury in anything. We would love to see that. It's one of the most researched things. We just don't tend to see it. What we do see, though, is people, guys, girls specifically, who are just doing some form of resistance training. And I say resistance training, it needs to be a form of more on the failure end. So let a girl get under a barbell and actually go to failure. And that's been the thing that we've seen the highest correlation with as far as from a preventative standpoint for serious injuries like ACL tears is people who resistance train consistently about 3 days a week with failure training tend to have less injuries overall. But you're right, finding literally like these are things, I use this analogy all the time. If something is wrong with your car, you take it to the mechanic, and the mechanic says, "Hey, you need this, 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 and an air freshener." I'm not I'm not asking any questions. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know this stuff. People just don't know this stuff, and that's part of what we have to do is go out and talk to these soccer coaches and say, "Hey, are your girls doing any lifting or any weightlifting?" And they say no, then there's an opportunity to step in. And I think there's a lot heavy need for that. Okay, so when you were playing in soccer, what were some of the injuries that you had personally?
The biggest thing that I dealt with were ankle sprains. I had 3
okay.
significant ankle sprains. Fortunately, never resulted in fracture or surgery, but
Yeah.
I would say they were pretty significant.
How significant?
I don't know, maybe like a really, really good grade 2.
Okay, yeah. So you
like-
couldn't walk for a couple days?
Oh,
on
no.
that? Yeah.
The first one, it was in a game I remember. I'll never forget. I was in 8th grade, and I went up to jump to head the ball, and this defender behind me, she shoved me, and I came down landing on my ankle. So that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then...
Just black and blue up to your calf,
Yeah. I still cringe thinking about
Does
how
it
that
bother
felt.
you to this day? Does it hurt you to this day? the ankle?
Sometimes if I'm on my feet for a while, I definitely notice the instability of my ankles.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm wearing heels or wedges. It's kind of crazy because I'll just be walking and then my ankle will just roll.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'll come back from it. It's crazy. It won't even hurt.
Is that ankle bigger than the other ankle?
No, well, the other one's also been sprained.
Okay, so you've got
The other
big
one's
one.
got 2. That one's got 1. So, at
Okay.
least it's almost balanced.
Yeah. Man, yeah, I had a nasty ankle injury. My right ankle, I've had it on both sides. My right ankle in particular is like a giant softball on the lateral malleolus, and the left side just kind of normal, looks kind of funky.
Yeah.
I don't wear sandals much because of that. Man, okay, so if you, with your ankle injuries, I guess that's something pretty common in soccer, and you're probably more familiar with soccer injuries than I am. But what do you think if you had and this you may not be able to answer this because I don't know, we don't have research saying this, but do you think if you would have had a resiliency program or some type of lifting, strengthening program, do you think that you would have had less injuries, or do you think that your injuries would have been less severe? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm just pontificating.
I would say it's possible.
Yeah.
I know in the instance of my ankle sprains, they were just kind of like fluke accidents that kind of happen. But I did have some. I think they just ended up saying it was like tendonitis in one of my knees.
Of course.
So definitely, I feel like would have helped with that. And then there was another time I had a very minor like adductor strain.
Okay.
So
more of the muscular things.
Yeah.
You're thinking,
Yeah.
I could agree with that. I do think it takes more than just I think preventative for joint issues like a sprain or even an ACL. I think it takes a lot more than resilience training is huge, strength training, but also doing like speed and agility training to where, did y'all do much speed and agility drills?
Maybe I would say We probably did more of that than we did maybe like resistance training.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it was anything significant.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to be the best thing. So it just teaches you so much body control. You have better kinesthetic awareness. You know your body better. It's going to work out all around.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. So if you were to create a program for a girls soccer team, what movements, and maybe give me your top 2 or 3, what are 2 or 3 movements that you would for sure have for them to train in that? You say you guys have to do this twice a week, and this is something we're going to do no matter what.
Just like general kind of
thing?
thing?
It could be general. Just like, just what would be the things that you think as a soccer player you think would be important?
I feel like quick lateral movements.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then maybe like quick pivots. Maybe like running forward and then, like pivoting some other direction, like or backwards or something. And then, a lot of times I feel like it's not something that you do often as compared to basketball, but you still do it a good amount. Some sort of jumping.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times that is when it's a common time for injuries in soccer to occur.
Yeah, and I think the thing with soccer that's a little bit different than basketball too, or a lot of other sports is you're always fatigued. You're gonna be fatigued in sports, but soccer in particular, you get to the end of that game, and I mean your fatigue level is pretty high, and you're still having to run and cut and do all these things, and you're pretty tired. Did you come out much when you played?
Let's see. In club, we kind of had this system since it was kind of like everyone was super competitive. We would kind of like rotate. That way everyone was fresh. In high school, I never came out.
Yeah.
And that was starting in 7th grade.
And how long is a game? How long is a game in high school?
They're all 90 minutes.
No matter what. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's so different. In high school basketball is shorter than college, and college is shorter than pros. Okay, so they're all not. Man, that's a long time.
It is a long time. A lot of running.
I'm thinking about 4-year-old Maddie and your dad having to go to a 90-minute soccer game for 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Maybe
I mean,
those
at that
games
time, they're a little shorter, I'd say.
Yeah, that'd
probably just turn into chaos.
Yeah, it's chaos either way for me.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So, on the strength conditioning side, and this is a quick tidbit as well that I want to ask: did anybody ever talk to you guys about nutrition?
No, never.
No, nobody ever said.
No.
Man, we did a podcast with Rebecca, and Rebecca being the dancer. She was on the Alabama color guard. She was a dancer, and that was another thing. Nobody ever spoke to them about nutrition, and I had no one spoke to me. I remember in college before we played my first preseason game in college. Literally 2 hours for the game, Coach brought in about 20 boxes of Little Caesars pizza. And that's what we ate prior to this game. And no wonder I cramped like crazy. I mean, no fueling whatsoever. So that's sad. That's something that we need to see change too. On the nutrition side, the same thing that you would, I mean, we keep things very general. We let Ellie and Vulcan Nutrition get into the details. But what are some things that you think would be important for I guess young athletes in general, but specific girls soccer player, and the same things we probably recommend in PT?
Yeah. Some things to recommend. I know. So one thing that I really found interesting once I got to undergrad was something that I'd never thought about or considered before. Really, once I got into my kind of like, I don't know what kind of. I don't really remember the name of the class that I took in undergrad, but definitely incorporated kind of like, I guess maybe a little bit of strength and conditioning principles. It was kind of like, actually, I think it was exercise physiology. Now it's coming to me. Yeah.
Class.
But we actually got a little bit into nutrition, not a whole lot, but kind of what the research showed about what you should eat like before you were performing, maybe if you needed to eat something during performing, and like what the indications for that were, when you should do that, and then what would be best to eat following. So that was the first time that I kind of got any exposure to that. I never really considered that, but I don't remember if I answered your question or not.
Oh, no, I was kind of alluding to like just the fact if people could be adequately hydrated, get some source of protein in, be. I mean, and then, I mean, we say young athletes, you don't think about this a lot because you're so quick to recover, but your sleep matters. Man, it matters a ton, especially on the injury. I mean, performance, absolutely. The studies on sleep and performance are absolutely astounding. And the studies on sleep prevention and injury are the same amount of astounding too. So that could be something as well we take into consideration. But, okay, so let's do this. So with soccer, if you could go back and talk to any of the girls you played, if you could go back and talk to yourself, 15-year-old Maddie, if you can go back and give her advice strictly on soccer, nothing else, you go back and give her advice on soccer in general, what would be something that you'd tell yourself to do?
So you said in general, right?
Yeah, in general, yeah.
I would say by that time, I probably learned what I would have told myself now. And I learned that due to playing high school soccer is that it's a lot better mentally. It's a lot more fun. I actually performed a lot better when I was, playing looser. I was out there having fun, not worried about winning, which I know I care about winning a whole lot, and it's very important to me. But I found that when I'm playing, lighter, more fun, I was having more fun with the game, playing with my friends and that kind of stuff, I actually played better.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess maybe like in club, not taking it so seriously. I know people would probably have different opinions on that, but for me personally, I know that, just enjoy my time with it because, those days are over now and I can't go back to them. And so enjoying them and making sure that I got the most out of it, I'd probably say.
Oh, I love that. That's really good. I think the same thing when I was playing ball. I used to tell myself a lot if I was really nervous for a game, or if I had played a few bad games in a row, I would start telling myself, nobody cares. They've all got their own lives. They're showing up to watch a brief game. They probably have some reason to show up anyways. Nobody cares, so I play. And that took a lot off my shoulders, and I would tend to play a lot better then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That was good. I think a lot of people could take that into account.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, when's the next time LSU's going to win national championship?
Next year.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so on another note, I do want to ask this. And since you've been a PT, with soccer and everything else, what has been the one thing that you think you do as a PT that you might not have done if it hadn't have been you going down to Refine or Refine and Mobile and being introduced to the way they did PT there, and then now you do it now? How do you think, if you could compare and contrast the two, what do you think that would look like?
I think I probably would have ended up at, maybe a PT clinic that's associated with a chain, maybe. And I think I would have, honestly, it definitely would have been a detriment to the services I would be able to give to my patients, just because being in this, what I learned at Refine and what I've learned in my time here has really helped me to expand my creativity, and learning different ways to go about treating. I feel like a lot of times PTs can potentially get stuck in the ways that they treat, and they kind of just prescribe the same exercises for every person with that same condition. And so I feel like what I've learned from everyone that I got to learn from and observe from at Refine, and what I've learned in my time here has definitely helped, like I said, with the creativity and with, I guess, just really being able to treat, different conditions.
Yeah. That's good. I love that.
And that's really important to me because creativity is definitely my weakness. And so, I feel like the only way to get better is going after your weaknesses. So, it was kind of daunting, but it is still slightly is daunting because, there are, of course, times when I feel like I don't, maybe I don't know fully what's going on, what I'm doing. Yeah. But, at least it's provided me with some education and with some help, and definitely with some growth in that aspect, and that's something that I can appreciate.
I love that. That's good. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions for Maddie on soccer, on PT, on anything, we will put a link in the description of where you can get in touch with her. Email, I might just give out your personal number. No, we won't give out personal, but for sure through email. But awesome, Maddie. Thanks for joining us on Impetus Health.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. See y'all later.